Welcome to Algebra 1, Unit 7, Lesson 18 Practice Problems. We only have one vocabulary term in this lesson, and that is quadratic formula. This is the method we will be using today to solve quadratic equations. Notice that we need them to be in standard form, set equal to 0, so that we can identify the A, B, and C terms. One rule is that A cannot be 0 because if it was, then x squared would go away and it would no longer be a quadratic equation. The formula that we'll use is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. When we solve this, what we're finding is the x-intercepts. So you have to keep that in mind when you are interpreting the solutions in the context of your problems. If you have any questions about the quadratic formula, please ask questions before we move on to the practice problems. Mai and Jada are solving the equation 2x squared minus 7x equals 15 using the quadratic formula, but found different solutions. Number 1, if this equation is written in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, what are the values of a, b, and c? So, a is with x squared, so it equals 2. b is with x, so it equals negative 7. And c, we would need to rewrite this so that it was set equal to 0. To do that, we would need to subtract 15 from both sides. So now we would have 2x squared minus 7x minus 15 equals 0. So c is negative 15. Number 2, do you agree with either of them and explain your reasoning? So if we look at Mai's work, Mai has mistakes right here and right here. So Mai uses 7 for b instead of negative 7. So her work is wrong. Jada makes a mistake right here. When she squares negative 7, she should get positive 49 because a negative times a negative is a positive. She gets negative 49, which is then going to make her answers incorrect. So no, I don't agree with either of them because Mai used 7 instead of negative 7 for b, and Jada got negative 49 instead of positive 49 when she squared -7. So both of them are wrong for different reasons. If you have any questions about how to analyze other students' work in this context, please ask for clarification so that you are better prepared moving forward through these practice problems and possibly on your test. The equation h of t equals -16t squared plus 80t plus 64 represents the height in feet of a potato t seconds after it was launched from a mechanical device. Number 1, write an equation that would allow us to find the time the potato hits the ground. Well, if we are measuring height and we want to know when the potato hits the ground, then we would need the height to be 0. So we could write -16t squared plus 80t plus 64 equals 0. This equation would allow us to find the time when the potato hits the ground. Number 2, solve the equation without graphing and show your reasoning. So first, we need to identify A, B, and C. A is with t squared, so that's -16. B is with t, so that's 80. And C is the constant, so that's 64. So we're going to have t equals -b, which is 80, plus or minus the square root of b, which is 80, squared, minus 4 times a, which is -16, times c, which is 64, all of this over 2 times a, which is -16. So we have -80 plus or minus the square root. 80 squared is going to be 6,400. -4 times -16 is 64 times 64 equals 4,096. And 2 times 16 is -32. $6,400 times 4,096 is 10,496. So we have now we can go ahead and take the square root of 10,496 which is 102.45. So we have two options. In the first option, we're going to add 102.45. And in the second option, we're going to subtract 102.45. So t either equals negative 80 plus 102.45 divided by negative 32. 80 plus 102.45 would be 22.45 divided by negative 32, which equals negative 0.7. In this context, it would mean the potato would hit the ground 7/10 of a second before it was launched. That doesn't make any sense, so the negative answer is ignored. The other option is that we subtract 102.45. This would give us negative 182.45, and when divided by 32, we would get 5.7. This means the potato hits the ground 5.7 seconds after it was launched. So that is the answer for this context. If you have any questions about how to write the equation you would use and how to solve it using the quadratic formula, or how to interpret those answers from the quadratic formula in context, please ask for further clarification so you are better prepared moving forward into other practice problems and your final test. Priya found x equals 3 and x equals negative 1 as solutions to 3x squared minus 6x minus 9 equals 0. Is she correct? Show how you know. So there are actually 3 methods to answering this question. The first thing you could do is use a graphing calculator like Desmos.com. Put in this equation and see if you have x-intercepts at 3 and negative 1. If you do, then Priya is correct. The second way that you could solve this is to use the quadratic formula. Identify A, B, and C, substitute them into the formula, do the math, and see if you get the solutions of 3 and negative 1. The third solution, which I'm going to do now, is the easier one. I'm simply going to substitute 3 into the equation, and I should get a true statement. So I should be able to put 3 times 3 squared minus 6 times 3 minus 9 and get 0. 3 squared is 9. Three times 9 is 27. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. And now 27 minus 18 is 9, and 9 minus 9 is 0. It's a true statement, so 3 is a solution. Then I should be able to do the same thing with negative 1 if it really is the other solution. Negative 1 squared is 1. Three times 1 is 3. Negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. 3 plus 6 is 9, and 9 minus 9 is 0. Because both of these solutions give me true statements, she is correct. But like I said, there are 3 methods. So if you chose to use a graphing calculator and check the x-intercepts, that is also a correct way to do this. And if you chose to use the quadratic formula and you got these as answers, then that is also a correct method. If you have any questions about anything we've gone over in Lesson 18, please use clarification or get clarification now so that you are better prepared as we move forward into the last few lessons of this year.